You were Oprah's main lady for sex, relationships, marriage, all those things, right? For tips. Not for her own. Well, maybe for her own too, I don't know. But on her show. All right, we're back with Dr. Laura Berman. If you missed last week's episode, please listen to it. She is a relationship, sex expert therapist. How do you even introduce yourself?
I don't even know. I'm a sex, love, and relationship therapist of 30 years, 2 masters and a PhD, 11 books.
So you haven't done much with your life, is what you're saying. 11?
11 books. Yep. Hosted several television shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the last episode that I was first introduced to her because you were Oprah's main lady for sex, relationships, marriage, all those things, right? For tips. Not for her own. Well, maybe for her own too, I don't know. But on her show. On her show. So anyway, we did an episode last week. We started answering questions that you guys either called in with or wrote on my social media, and we didn't get through too many because we covered so many great topics and you gave great tips. So if you missed last week's episode, go listen to it. But we're just going to dive right in and continue with questions. Let's listen to voicemail first.
My question is, my husband and I have been married since we were 19 years old. So this year we are celebrating 17 years of marriage. We have an almost 9-year-old daughter, and her bedroom is next door to ours. And she does not go to bed easily. And he is of the mindset that sex should only happen after bedtime. So I just need advice or ways to spice it up, to see if I can figure out a way to make our sex life more active, because it's kind of become a little dull and a little lacking. Maybe once every couple of weeks is when it happens, and that's, to me, kind of sad because we're 37, almost 38 years old, and I just feel like it should be more than that. So any advice would be greatly appreciated. All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, look, if you have kids and you're waiting for sex to happen spontaneously, good luck. You're going to be waiting a long butt time. And also, it's always fast. I mean, it makes sense. It's just what we're taught in the movies and in the media and growing up. But why do we all think that sex has to happen late at night when we are the most tapped out and the most exhausted? And especially, I mean, that's inherently what she's saying, is that my kid takes a really long time to go to sleep and he doesn't want to have sex until the house is quiet and the day is done. You know, that's what a lot of people think. And it's a big mistake at any point in your life to try to have sex at the least energetic, unless you're a major night owl, which most people are not. So you want to try to have sex at the time where you have more energy. And if you have kids, I'm really adamant about embracing scheduling it. Mm-hmm. You know, we're taught that you're supposed to just spontaneously throw down. It's not going to happen, especially when you have kids. If you schedule it at a time when they're at school or when they're on a play date or whatever, you know, early in the morning before everybody gets up, if there's a window there.
Morning sex is the best.
Yes. And you have so much more energy. But if you can plan it, and it doesn't have to be at the same time every week, but, you know, ideally you're planning it at least once a week if you can, then it becomes something that you're kind of looking forward to and that you can maybe plan around, and maybe you can even create a little fantasy box where you write down all the fantasies you want to act out together and you pull one out once a month and you do that during your sex date.
That's fun. I think couples that have been together for a while need that. They need those little extra ways to just spice it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's normal to I do this to you. You do this to me. We have our formula. It works. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's also fun to, you know, mix things up a little bit. Yeah. But their biggest mistake is trying to do it at night and waiting for it to happen spontaneously.
Yeah. I know. And you're so exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Actually, someone wrote in with a similar question. I find the thought of my teens walking in or hearing us pretty off-putting. So I struggle to switch off and relax when they are home. I know it's unlikely, but nope.
Yeah.
So she's not worried about them walking in. She's just knowing they're in the house.
Makes it
hard for her to relax.
I mean, look.
How does she get over that?
Well, I know I'm being saying get over that. But here's the thing. Here's how I want you to think about it. your kid, I mean, we all know this. I'm sure you talk about this all the time because I know you agree with me on this, that your kids are not learning from what you're saying. Yep. They are learning from what you are doing. And that does not mean that they know the details of your sex life. We do not want them walking in on it. We do not want them seeing it. We do not want them knowing the details. But them knowing that mom and dad have a sexual relationship is so healthy for them. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that everyone who comes into my office for a sexual issue gets a sexual history where I'm looking at how they were raised and sexual trauma and their first sexual experiences and their beliefs and all kinds of things. And one of the questions I always ask, because it's so important and it's so informative about how they feel about their own sexuality and in their relationship, is what was your sense of your parents' sex life growing up? And so often I hear, I wasn't even aware they had sex. I never even saw them hug or kiss. You know, they obviously had sex 3 times to have me and my siblings, but I'm not aware that they ever had. And those are the people that are really struggling because we need a model of what a loving, romantic sexual relationship looks like. And so my kids totally knew. I mean, I didn't go, bye kids, I'm going to get busy with dad right now. Like I didn't announce when I was going to do it.
Right.
But they knew that we had an active sex life.
Well, and also think about it. If your kids don't know, like you don't want them to know that you have sex. So are they just thinking of sex as something that they see in movies where people just hook up and stuff, and they don't associate sex with 2 married people who love each other and they still continue after years of marriage to enjoy sex together? Again, they don't need to know the details or anything, but don't you want your kids to know that that is part of a great relationship and it doesn't have to end once you reach a certain age or a certain number of years of marriage?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I even say to parents with younger kids, like you can say, you know, mommy and daddy are going to go have our special, you know, we're going to go cuddle now. You guys watch cartoons. You know, you don't have to say mom and dad are going to get busy. You know, you guys stay occupied. But obviously, if they're not going to burn the house down, I'm not saying to leave a 2 and 3-year-old like that. But if they're 7, 8, 9, 10, and they're watching a few cartoons, you know, that's normal. You know, lock the door.
I was going to say, if she's worried about teens walking in, have a lock on your door. There should be a lock.
Every parent, no matter how old your kids are, have a lock on your door. That's what monitors are for. Yeah. Right? Like you have a monitor to monitor your kids. Now you even have camera monitors. Yeah. Like you don't, you know, you can keep an eye on them and be aware of what's happening and still have your door locked.
Yeah. I don't think I'd be able to relax if all my kids were home and I didn't have the lock on the door. The lock on the door is what makes me be able to go. Yes. That should just be a given. Okay. In my 30th year of marriage, another question from a follower. In my 30th year of marriage to a man I love, but we literally gave up on sex 2 years ago. It's been a huge source of stress for us for years, and we've just gotten tired. But that isn't either of our desire. We just don't know how to fix what is broken, and we're just exhausted from trying for years. So I saw a lot of questions come in about we've been married for a long time and it's just not a priority anymore. But it's interesting that she said that sex was a huge source of stress for years.
Yeah.
So,
well, in a way, I understand why they did that. And ironically, that's one of the first things I'll do clinically. Like if a couple comes in like that, where it's become this huge 800-pound gorilla in the room with them. Are we, aren't we? I'm not going to reach out and hug and kiss you because you might think I'm trying to start something and I'm going to have to say no. I'm not going to reach out and hug and kiss you because you're just going to reject me. You know, there's all of these like unspoken tensions. And so I'll just say, look, no more sex. Take it off the table for the foreseeable future, and we're going to rebuild from the ground up. And that's what I would suggest for them. If you really want to get your sex life back on track, at this point, you need the help of a sex therapist. And you know what you do in that case. So there's several things that I would have couples do. I mean, depending on their issues, but in general, you take sex out of there's no more guesswork.
It's not even an option.
It's not even an option. Okay. Now I want you to spend 15 minutes twice a week with no technology, cuddling and kissing, knowing it is going nowhere. It is just that. Talking, like maybe music, that's it. Talking, cuddling, maybe even playing a kissing game where I kiss you the way I most love to be kissed and we kiss that way for a while.
Is this clothes on or clothes off?
All clothes. There's no sex. There's no orgasm. There's no arousal. There's just reconnecting. sort of semi-sensually, but more emotionally at first. And then you slowly kind of move in. Then I move them into what's called sensate focus, right? Where they're touching each other with clothes on sometimes at first, but even if it's without clothes, avoiding breasts and genitals, no arousal, just communicating love and sensuality and connection from head to toe. Then we'll start doing the genital brush by. Then we'll start moving. And each step of the way, we're looking at any resistance that's coming up. We're troubleshooting stuff. All kinds of things are coming forward about what they like or what they don't like or what they're remembering. But you have to kind of undo everything and rebuild from the ground up. And it doesn't take a long time. I mean, my average is probably 3 months with a couple if everything else is essentially okay. But what they're trying to do is like, let's just take the pressure off, which isn't a bad idea.
Yeah.
But what they're not doing is rebuilding.
Yeah. I love that, because I think a lot of couples who are in that situation might just be like, let's just schedule it, or let's just force ourselves once a week. And you're right. It's just going to lead to even more stress. But the idea of stopping completely and rebuilding so thoughtfully, intentionally. And then I would think that also just that intimacy, non-sexual intimacy, will start to create desire. Yeah. And you'll start having those butterflies almost that you had when you first met, right?
It's hilarious to me. I would say about 60% of the time, and it's usually the woman who isn't interested, not always, but I would say the majority of the time, and they haven't had sex, sort of like this couple, and they come to see me and I say, all right, no more sex. All I want you to do, you're just going to kiss. I want you to kiss her the way you must love to kiss her. That's all you're going to do. Yeah. No sex. It's not even on the table. And I can't tell you how many times they come back in and they're all sheepish. We cheated. Because once the pressure, and that's not my intention. I'm not like secretly telling them not to have sex. I'm not trying to do some reverse psychology judo on them. But I would say 60 or more % of the time, they're like, somehow when that pressure was off and the expectations weren't there and I could just kind of relax, and I started to get turned on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, if something happened and I was just 100% not in the mood, if I spent, I don't know how long you said, 15 minutes with my husband just rubbing my back and kissing, I probably would get in the mood pretty quickly. Yeah, yeah. I love that, though. I think the pressure is one of the questions, I didn't even pick it as one of the questions today because I feel like this is over talked about, but so many people ask, how often, should we be having sex? And even that adds so much pressure. Like, people start comparing, right? How often their best friend is having sex versus them. And
that's why they're asking.
Yes. So even that creates pressure. And I think any sort of pressure is the worst thing probably to be able to have a great sex life. Yeah. Like, remove all the pressure.
Yeah. They're asking so they can go back to their partner and be like, see? We don't have to have that much sex, or see, we should be doing it more. Yeah. I mean, there is no one norm, although you don't want to go too long. I mean, ideally, not longer than 2 weeks, but depending on what phase and stage of life you're in, it may be more or less.
Yeah. Okay, this is not a question we got, but what you just said made me think about something. What would you advise couples where, maybe there's a medical issue? Yeah. And one of the partners just... Can't. What do you advise?
I mean, there's so many ways around it. My husband and I were just joking because he was telling me this joke he saw of this guy saying that his wife had something where she couldn't have sex. Mm-hmm. And she said, the doctor said I couldn't have sex for the next week. I can't have sex for the next week. And he said, okay, what did the dentist say? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I mean, it's very funny, but it's also true, right? Like, obviously, if you are really sick or going through chemo, like, your partner freaking understands that's what his hands are for, and or you can take care of yourself. And there's so many ways to maintain intimacy and connection in non-sexual ways. That's the main thing, because I find for a lot of guys, men in particular, it's less so for women, the act of sex and everything else that for us is kind of with or without sex, like hand holding, kissing, cuddling, all of that all is in the same bucket. So if they can't have sex, they're not doing any of that.
Yep.
And that other stuff can be really supportive, especially if you're going through a phase where one of you can't.
Yeah.
Medically, or you're just so ill, or something is happening, and every relationship is going to go through that.
Yeah. But you're right. I think a lot of times it's like sex becomes the only intimacy in a marriage. And then if something happens where you can't have sex, that eliminates all intimacy, which shouldn't happen. There's so many ways to be intimate that doesn't include sex.
Yes. I call it Venus, very erotic, non-insertive sex.
Did you come up with that?
Yes, when I was in graduate school.
Wait, say it again.
Venus, Venis, very erotic, non-insertive sex.
That's
amazing. I came up to it in graduate school as a safer sex strategy, when I was working with kids, but it applies here too.
That's genius. Okay, another question. What are some steps I can take after a marriage marred by infidelity, sexual addiction, and sexual assault? I am fine with self-gratification, but in recent relationships after marriage, the thought of a sexual encounter was terrifying. We had discussions, but broke up after he revealed he had watched extensive porn. I feel like I have done the inner child / interpersonal work, but it is still terrifying, although I desire a healthy relationship.
With this person, she's saying? Okay. Well,
she said they broke up. Okay. So I don't know if it's with this person or someone else.
Well, so if you broke up, tell me his things again. Sex addiction.
So this was a marriage already ended.
Yeah.
That was infidelity, sexual addiction, and sexual assault.
Oh, sexual assault. That's
and then dating after that has been.
Okay. So she is traumatized.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're talking about, is a form of sexual trauma and betrayal trauma. Right? So sexual assault, even more so to some extent by your partner, is a serious sexual trauma. The betrayal of infidelity is another kind of trauma. That can take a long time to rebuild trust and intimacy and connection with someone else, and to get yourself to the point where you are ready to try that. So to her, I would say, really get yourself into treatment for trauma. Because it's going to be really hard to open up to a new relationship and to move into trust. I mean, my ex-husband, who, like I said, I've been married almost 25 years now to my final husband. Yeah. But my first husband, I met when I was really young. He was a horrible human being, and he was a horrific cheater. And ended up, I discovered 3 years into our marriage that he had been in a relationship with someone else the entire time.
Wow.
And I was so devastated. I mean, there were so many layers of trauma in that relationship. I was so devastated. It wasn't that I didn't date around or have sex with other people. I did. But I committed to staying single for 4 years until I really had done the work to heal. Because I knew that I was just going to bring that into the next relationship. And we are always going to attract someone in who is at the same level of emotional health that we are.
Oh, say that again. That's really important.
We are always going to attract in and be attracted to someone who is at the same level of emotional health. So if you haven't healed your trauma around being raised by an addict or being in a relationship with an addict, you're going to say, okay, I'm never going to date anyone who drinks or uses drugs again. I'm off addicts, and that's what I'm going to do. And you meet the next person, and they've been sober for 10 years, and they had a horrible experience with an addict too, and this is the person for me. And it turns out they're a gambling addict, right? Or a sex addict. Like, we are just going to keep repeating the same thing in a different flavor.
So this is why sometimes it'll be like, every husband I've had has cheated on me.
Yes. Yeah. I just had this conversation with Nick Cannon, who's a good friend of mine, who has 5 baby mamas, 12 kids, and is in 3 active relationships, polyamorous relationships. Wow. And I give him so much shit about this all the time. And I can say it here because I say it to him on camera.
I've seen clips online where you say it to his face.
Say shit to his face. I love him so much. Like, we love each other, but I am very direct with him. And I have said to him many times that, because he'll be like, I'm giving him shit about the way and he's like, I am upfront, which he is. I am upfront. I am honest from the beginning. They all sign up for it. They're all on board. I'm like, they are not on board. Look at all, where I'm pointing out all these things. And I said to him the other day, like, if they were healed of their own trauma, none of them would be with you.
Amen.
None of them would be with you.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's really bad out there. This one, had all this string of horrific relationships. Yeah, because that's what she's a match for, because she hasn't healed.
Yeah.
And this is what happens.
Wow. So let's go back to infidelity for a second, because we did get some questions about that. Do you believe, like for you, obviously you left and put that behind you. Do you believe marriages can survive infidelity? Yes. And what would it require? And not just survive it.
Thrive.
Because there's a lot of, I hate the whole like, wow, it's so incredible. They've been married 30 years. Yeah, have they been good 30 years? Like, I don't give any credit to long marriage. I want to know the quality, not the quantity.
Me too.
So I don't just mean we stayed together because that's what we wanted to do or whatever. But I mean, like, actually, the trust is back. The sex is great. During sex, the partner who was cheated on isn't thinking, am I the only one right now? Or is he thinking about this other person that he slept with? Like, is that possible?
Yeah.
And how?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do is help people repair after the affair. You can end up with a better relationship than you ever would have had if the infidelity hadn't happened.
Not that we recommend cheating.
I don't recommend cheating. But because it's the catalyst to heal lots of things that needed to be healed in both of you, by the way, even if you were the one that was cheated on. That doesn't mean it was your fault, but shit was going down on your end too.
Because we all have unhealed parts of ourselves.
Yes. So you're healing parts of yourself that got in the way of your connection, your intimacy, your ability to advocate for yourself, your ability to set healthy boundaries, your ability to address resentments, your ability to communicate. All of that is being addressed. All the sexual issues are being addressed. You're facing things that you've probably never faced before with each other and individually. And you're growing into really new versions of yourself together. And it requires a lot. The couples that I see that come into treatment that don't make it are the ones that can't tolerate what it takes to heal. So, for instance, you have to be an open book. Okay? Trust has been broken. So now your partner, which by the way, I think relationships should do anyway. If you're in a monogamous relationship, you should have all your partner's passwords.
Yep.
All their stuff, not because you're incessantly checking up with them, but by the way, after you've been cheated on, free reign for them to check on you whenever they start feeling insecure. So you are the cheater is an open book. They have to tolerate, often where I see that couples fall down and struggle is because the person who cheated can't tolerate the other partner's anger and fear. They're like, get over it already. Like it's been 2 months and I just need it to be in the past. And it's going to take as long as it takes, depending on how much other trauma your partner has had for them to start. So you have to be, the cheater has to be really patient.
God, if someone cheated on me and then told me to get over it,
I can't tell you how many.
I might be in prison.
I know.
I don't know.
I can't tell you how often they don't literally say get over it.
Yeah.
But
I can see someone being like, it's been a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
like, when are you going to trust me again?
Yeah.
And they don't want to keep hearing about, they don't want to keep having a mirror put up to what they did, which I understand. But it is worth the investment, and if you're willing to do those things and to really work on your communication and both of you work on the relationship. And there's other things that I ask of the person that was being cheated on, like they get a contained period where they can ask questions or throw those emotional darts every day. But the rest of the time, they're connecting and spending quality time.
So contained time, like,
you get 10 minutes
because
a day.
I can see it being forever.
Yeah.
Like I can see 20 years later. Can you tell me again exactly what happened?
Or just in the beginning, it's constant. So there's no room for reconnection. So I'll be like, okay, you get 10 minutes a day. Save it up. Write down all your questions. Okay, that day that you went on a business meeting, were you really with her in the hotel? Or, that time that you called and said you couldn't talk, because your mind's going, right? So you save all those up on a daily basis. Or I'm just so pissed at you. You're such an a-hole, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, do all that. You get 10 minutes a day. and then you got to save it for the next day. And the rest of the time, it's about this is if both of you want to make the relationship work.
Which, let's just give
you don't have to make the relationship
let's just make
work.
it clear. We're not telling anybody who's cheating on you have to stay.
Yeah, not at all.
I personally...
I didn't stay.
Yeah, and I don't think I would
But by the way, I have told my husband if he cheated on me, I probably would stay.
Wow. Tell me about
that's how much I love him. We were having this I didn't volunteer that, but we were having a conversation about what would happen. And I was like, because I know his heart. And I mean, we've been together a really long time. I know his heart and I know who he is. But
I think you could also say that because you know he won't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I think if he did, I would really want to understand what happened and why and what was going on. And I would do my best to see, but also because I've seen it happen so many times, that you can rebuild better than you were before.
Yeah.
And he's worth that attempt.
Yeah.
And what we've invested and built together is worth that attempt. I wouldn't stick around if it didn't work or if he wasn't really trying or whatever. But
I think that's a good hope for people to hear who are trying to work through it and maybe right now, they really want to stay together.
Yeah.
And maybe right now they're in the really, really tough part where they don't know.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Get support. You have to do it with support. Do not try to do it on your own.
Yeah. I will add, though, I think a lot of times people think they'll stay in crappy marriages or infidelity, marred marriages because of the kids.
Yeah.
And I do not think that that is smart.
No.
One of the, just to be clear, the reason I left my ex was not infidelity. So I want to make that clear when I say this. But I remember hearing a quote, it's better for a child to come from a broken home than live in a broken home. And that gave me permission because I was staying for the kids.
A lot of people do.
And so I do want to add that. You don't have to stay for the children.
No.
Sometimes it's actually worse for the children.
I mean, what they need, and this is the number one predictor, they just did a big study at Harvard, the number one predictor of the healthiest, most successful children are happy mothers.
Wow.
If you are miserable, first of all, back to what we've said, I think in the last episode, is that the number one gift you can give your children for their romantic future is a model of what a loving relationship looks like. And all the people I see as adults in my office will, when they say my parents hated each other, they were always, they didn't have any intimate life, that affects them.
Yeah.
They need you. You're the foundation. They need you to be stable. You are better off apart and happy than together and fighting and snarking at each other and miserable.
Yep.
That is not good for anyone.
I know plenty of kids who wish that their parents were not married.
So many.
Still are. Yes.
So many.
Okay, let's go to the voicemail.
I miscarried last year. I hemorrhaged during the miscarriage, and I had a DNC. Since then, I've had a really hard time being intimate with my husband. Every time we finish, I cry. I'm just wondering if there's any advice that she might have for someone who's struggling with a loss, and intimacy has become a place of sorrow instead of closeness with your spouse.
Yeah, poor thing.
Wow.
So glad she asked this question, because what she's talking about is what I call disenfranchised grief. Sometimes, a woman who lost a child after it was born gets so much more support. I find that happens so often than a woman who has a miscarriage or loses a child before it's born. Yeah. There's something about the child being born that somehow entitles her to more understanding and support, which to me is crazy. And it is loss and grief that is tied to sex. Right? Because the baby came from sex. So you're having sex with your husband, and another baby may come, and now all the grief and all the fear, and what if it happens again? So it's all so loaded. What I would say to you is that it is so normal to feel this way. And I'm so glad you're asking, because there's going to be so many women listening who are like, yeah, me too. And you want to get yourself some grief support. For that. You are entitled to your grief. You have lost a child, and that is huge.
I like that you said grief support, not just, sex therapy or what. This is specifically grief. Yeah.
This is, you may need, if it kind of is taken on a life of its own, you may need a little bit of even what we were talking about. I'm all confused now if it was in this episode or last week's, but when we were talking about how to get your sex life back on track after you haven't been having sex, like that kind of process of slowly rebuilding intimacy probably would serve her. But I would say before you even try to do that, get the grief support and, really just try to be intimate with him in other ways. If it's because also this can take on a life of its own with him too. He'll start avoiding sex because he doesn't want to make you cry. Yeah. So if you need to, just say, let's put a little pause on this for a couple of months. Let's just really be intimate in other ways and really connect with each other romantically and sensually and cuddle and be together. I need to get some grief support. I think it can get back on track, but you just need a little more support.
And especially like what I think it was this episode we were talking about rebuilding, like to rebuild the intimacy where even just that vulnerable, intimate time with him can feel more comforting at first and then lead to eventually. Thank you so much for calling in. I miscarriage is so common. Yeah. And I think a lot of women that are going through it don't even realize because a lot of people don't talk about it. But I'm so glad she called in with that. Yeah. All right. Another question. This is actually not sex related. This is more just relationship in general related. I know I cannot change my husband. That's true. So how can I change my attitude over his excessive phone/screen use despite years of being asked to be more present?
Tricky. Yeah. It's also an addiction, and it's a big problem. I mean, I think there are ways you can do it where you can say, okay, can we have 30 minutes a day where we put our phones in a drawer and we really are present with each other, right? Like asking someone who's addicted to technology to just put it away for the whole day or to put it away whenever you're together is too much to ask. Yeah. But maybe creating pockets of time. And also thinking about, and I don't think this is necessarily the case with her, but I'm just going to mention it because I think it is often the case that we build up so much resentment because of the way we aren't getting our needs met that we're kind of snarky and critical and not that much fun to be around. And I'm not saying you have to be sweetness and light or you don't deserve your partner's attention. Not at all. But I also think there's something to be said for like, if you want more romance, and I ask myself this question, I encourage everyone to, like, let's say I want more romance in my life, obviously, that's partly on my partner, and it's not a but, and how am I showing up or not showing up in a way that inspires romance in him? Am I browbeating him all the time and complaining or filling him with to-dos every time we're together? Or am I flirting with him a little bit?
And it goes both ways, but when men ask for the same thing. Yeah.
But, it's true for both, right? But she's the one wanting something different. So I want my husband to be present. And once again, this isn't putting the blame on her for what's happening, but it's just something to throw in the mix. I want my husband to show up with more presence. What am I doing or not doing that inspires him to want to be present with me? Am I trying, if there's time for us to be together, am I seeking to be engaging and loving and playful and fun? So there's ways. I'm not saying you have to manipulate or negotiate or be something different to get your needs met. But I do think that resentments can build enough where we're accidentally making it worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if they go on date nights or whatever, but even just like setting a time, like, can we go have dinner and not be on our phones? Just find those moments.
Or go for a walk, right? Just like once a week to start with.
But I would also be curious, like, what is he escaping?
Yes.
Like, why doesn't he want to be present in his family?
That's why I was saying.
What are you running away from? Yeah. What's, like, maybe he needs some therapy too.
Yes.
To work
through definitely. I mean, couples therapy would definitely help. Yeah.
What's the biggest, like, most common thing you see in therapy that couples come in with? Is it sex or is it?
It's often sex. If it's sex, the most common issue is uneven desire, where one wants it more than the other. It's often infidelity. It's often, I'm seeing a lot more porn addiction, and just real disconnect, real disconnect in the relationship.
I'm going to ask you, I know you've written 11 books, so you don't have to mention all of them, but let's play a little game that I just invented. If you're going through this, I recommend this book of mine.
God.
If you're going through this, I recommend this book of mine. Give us at least a couple.
I'll try. All right.
Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to come up with these? I've got to come up with the categories?
Well, I'll give you the first one, and then you'll come up with the other one.
If you want, all right, so let's talk about the most recent sex book, Sex Magic.
Yep.
Right? This is my most recent one. If you want to really jumpstart your sex life and really create excitement that is sustainable, not just dopamine triggering, but like you ongoing, then read Sex Magic. That's the antidote to bedroom boredom.
I was just going to ask that. Okay. Because I think that's a common one. Like, it's been a while. We're in a routine.
Yeah. Or I'll give people, they all say how to spice it up. I'll give them 300 tips, tools, toys, role plays. And in a year, they'll be back asking for more because now none of those are new. We're always seeking novelty. This teaches you how to do it. I mean, it gives you the feeling of the intensity and excitement without needing novelty.
I was going to say, is it healthier to just create more novelty, or is it healthier to get to a point where you don't need the novelty? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, as people kept asking me that for years, I started saying, okay, well, what is the feeling? Like, what is it that you really want out of the novelty? And what we're really seeking is erotic intensity and excitement. So then I started getting into, okay, how can we create excitement and intensity and excitement in a couple that's been together for 20 years who has already done all the things.
Yeah.
And many times.
Yeah.
And nothing is really new anymore. Right. And that's where sex magic is rooted in ancient practices of Tantra and Kundalini and Taoism. They knew much better than us how to create that erotic intensity. So it's full of extras. The book is full of exercises and techniques and things you can try with your partner. So that's a really good one for that. If you're,
go ahead. I was just going to add something my husband and I've done, and we don't do it too often because then it would not be interesting anymore, is if he texts me and says, hey, this is Philip, which obviously I have his phone saved, so I know who it is. If he says that, I know what's happening. Yeah. And he will say, it was really nice meeting you the other day. And he will ask me out on a date. And then he will actually pick a place that we've never been to because everything has to be new. And he will show up to, like, he'll be like, okay, I'm going out golfing with the guys. And then he'll come and pick me up. And we will go to a bar or something we've never been. And what's cool about this is, we'll end up having conversations we normally wouldn't have because our normal date conversations, a lot of times it's like, oh, did we sign up Ari for the Taekwondo thing? And did we, and what do we have next week? And instead we're asking each other like, what's your favorite movie you've ever seen? Or something some
that you
questions you may
even first date.
Yes. But then also this tension builds up and we end up coming home and having the best sex ever. So that's
I love that. I mean, you're basically taking the fantasy of pretending you're strangers to a whole new level. I like it.
And it's like we used to do it maybe once a year. Now it's every few years. Yeah. But that's what makes it exciting. I think if we were doing this every month, it wouldn't be that exciting.
It would lose its novelty.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. More books.
We are raising sexually healthy kids. Get my book, Talking to Your Kids About Sex.
I think every parent needs that one.
Yeah, I do too. If you are looking for a kind of more traditional guide of positions and getting to know your body, I would get Loving Sex.
Okay.
Morning, it has like real people illustrations in there.
Okay.
What else? Real Sex for Real Women is a really good one for like a woman learning about her own body and the changes with menopause and how to sort of figure out what she really wants.
What's that one called again?
Real Sex for Real Women.
Okay. Have you ever written a children's book about sex?
No, I tried for a little bit and it didn't really go. What I did, because I've taught sex ed forever. Yeah. And I have hundreds of questions that kids have asked me, which are so cute. And, like, what if the egg doesn't break when the baby comes out and things like that. And I put them all together and I was going to answer them in a way that a kid could read, but it didn't really.
I think you should. Not that you need more work, but I'm just thinking about those parents who, even though they know they should be talking to their kids about sex, they're like, we don't even know how to start because we were raised where nobody talked to us about it.
Well, in my book, I have conversation starters,
the talking to your
scripts.
Kids. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it tells you exactly what they need to know, when to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe by the time I have grandkids, you'll write that.
Yeah.
And I'll gift it to
hopefully
everybody.
Sooner.
Yes. Yes, hopefully sooner. I do not want grandkids anytime soon. Okay, I so appreciate you being here. And especially making this a 2-part episode. Again, if you'd missed the first one, there's so much good stuff in there, so go listen to it. If you ever want to call in with questions or comments about anything, you can call 855-912-4175. I also have an app called Hope and Humor Daily if you just need daily support from a friend. And we love you all. And thank you for your vulnerability, for everyone that wrote in and called. And we wish you healing and health and love and really great, healthy sex.
Really good sex.
Thank you for being here.
Amen. Thank you.